Republican retreat. Lawmakers step away from Washington to develop their political action plan. GOP debate. Why we'll see fewer candidates on the stage tonight. State of abortion. We show you how the trends are changing. And gearing up. We preview this weekend's March for Life Chicago. Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for Thursday, January 14th, 2016. Good evening. Brand new tonight, Planned Parenthood files a federal lawsuit today against the Center for Medical Progress. It produced undercover videos alleging the sale of aborted baby parts by some Planned Parenthood clinics. David DeLeiden and the Center for Medical Progress began releasing a series of covertly recorded videos in July. They allege Planned Parenthood sold aborted baby parts to researchers for a profit in violation of federal law. Planned Parenthood denies any wrongdoing, saying clinics only accepted permissible reimbursement for costs. The civil suit, filed today in U.S. District Court in San Francisco, seeks compensatory and punitive damages as well as legal fees. DeLeiden says he wants to confront Planned Parenthood in court. Here's a quote: "I look forward to deposing all the CEOs, medical directors, and their co-conspirators who participated in Planned Parenthood's illegal baby body parts racket." Religious liberty. Health care, jobs, national security, and of course life. Republican lawmakers are huddling over key issues facing America in 2016. Wyatt Goolsby is covering the annual Republican retreat in Baltimore tonight. Wyatt?
Brian, Republican leaders this week are trying to promote an upbeat, hopeful agenda, or at least vision, for their party in the year ahead. They hope that vision will translate into a White House win.
We don't want to have another president like this one that divides the country. We want to unite, and that means listening to all voices, those who are frustrated, those who are inspiring, all of the above.
House Speaker Paul Ryan and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell speaking on a variety of issues facing the GOP. They may be talking inclusion, but it's clear the party is still divided over who to support in the race for the White House. Most Republican lawmakers here chose not to weigh in on the campaign.
What I've tried to ask the Senate to do is let the presidential candidates run their race, and let's try to do the people's business.
Speaker Ryan says his party will support whoever wins the Republican primary. Today, Senator John McCain said that'll be the case, even if it's Donald Trump.
If Trump is the nominee, we work with him. You have to. That's our job, is to work with the nominee of our party.
Regardless of who becomes the GOP nominee, change is coming. This week's GOP meetings are the first since John Boehner stepped down as House Speaker and the last of the Obama presidency. Organizers here have welcomed a variety of speakers, including Cardinal Timothy Dolan of New York. Today he spoke on faith and reason, as well as the legacies of St. John Paul II and Pope Benedict XVI. Brian?
Wyatt Goolsby in Baltimore. Thank you, Wyatt. We continue political coverage. In other stories, our EWTN News Nightly team covers in today's world. The main stage at tonight's Republican presidential debate won't be quite so crowded. Fox Business Network tightened the rules so only the top 7 candidates make the main event. They are Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Ben Carson, Jeb Bush, John Kasich, and Chris Christie. Others, including Carly Fiorina, meet for the so-called undercard event earlier in the evening. Jim Antle is politics editor for the Washington Examiners. How much do you think of tonight's debate will be focused on the State of the Union address?
I think you'll see a little bit of using the State of the Union address to sort of frame disagreements with the president and to maybe argue that the president and his supporters, the Democrats, are being a little too optimistic about the state of the country.
We're getting down to the wire. People are starting to vote very soon. What message do these candidates need to hammer home before that happens?
I think if you're Donald Trump, you keep doing what you're doing. You emphasize strength. You emphasize your management skills. You're Ted Cruz. You focus on your conservative credentials. I think that's probably true of most of the others as well. Marco Rubio mixes conservatism and electability. I think that'll be a main focus of his.
Trump claims that Cruz isn't a natural-born citizen. Is that a valid claim?
The consensus amongst most legal experts is that if you were born an American citizen and didn't have to go through any kind of naturalization process, you are a natural-born citizen. But there are some experts who disagree, and the courts have never ruled on it definitively, so there's ambiguity.
Trump did an exclusive interview with the Examiner. How did he explain his brand of conservatism?
Well, Donald Trump said that his conservatism is about a strong America and that he is in fact a conservative because he appeals to conservatives, as the polls show, and that he's growing conservatism and growing the Republican Party, not necessarily a laundry list of policy issues.
At one time, Dr. Ben Carson seemed like he was on the rise. That has kind of slipped recently. He just lost his campaign finance chairman. Do you think that campaign can revive?
The hemorrhaging of his campaign is a really bad sign this close to Iowa. One of the things that they've done very well is raise money. Losing that campaign finance chair at this point in the race is a pretty big setback.
All right, Jim Antle, politics editor for the Washington Examiner. It's going to be an exciting few months, and we appreciate you sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you.
And the Democratic presidential race continues to tighten tonight. Hillary Clinton's edge over Bernie Sanders is now just 2 percentage points in Iowa. That's according to a new Bloomberg Des Moines Register poll released today. Clinton tops Sanders 42 to 40%. Maryland's former governor Martin O'Malley has only 4% support in that most recent poll. President Obama takes his State of the Union message to the Bayou today. After visiting Omaha Wednesday, he held a town hall in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Obama repeating what he says is the biggest regret of his presidency.
Politics has become more rancorous during my presidency and more polarized than it was when I came in.
After leaving office, Obama says he wants to continue working on issues like education, criminal justice reform, and international development. Anglican leaders have temporarily suspended the U.S. Episcopal Church from key positions in their global fellowship. The move is in reaction to Episcopalians authorizing gay marriage ceremonies in their churches here in the U.S. The Episcopal Church is the U.S. arm of the global Anglican Communion. Episcopalians will be barred from international Anglican committees and from decision-making for 3 years. Indiana Governor Mike Pence says he will prioritize religious freedom in the debate over civil rights protections for gay and transgender people. In his State of the State speech, Pence says no one should ever fear persecution because of their deeply held religious beliefs. A California judge issues a tentative ruling denying a woman's request to require a Catholic hospital to perform a tubal ligation. Judge Ernest Goldsmith rules that Mercy Medical Center in Redding was not engaging in sex discrimination. He points out the hospital's policy against sterilization also applies to men. The judge also says the plaintiff is free to get that procedure at another hospital. A major abortion rights group criticizes House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi over what it calls disappointing and ill-advised remarks. In an interview published this week, the California Democrat defends a woman's right to abortion, but Pelosi adds, "I don't believe in abortion on demand." NARAL Pro-Choice America issued a statement in response. It says abortion supporters need to speak with a clear and strong voice and should not use twisted GOP talking points. Well, abortion rates dropped 4.2% nationally, this according to a new report from the nation's largest pro-life group. As Catherine Szeltner reports tonight, it's a promising sign of progress for the pro-life movement.
In a report released today, the National Right to Life Committee says abortions are dropping across the board.
More women are rejecting abortion, and we're seeing numbers that we haven't seen since the 70s.
Here's one highlight. Teens getting an abortion went down 12% in 1 year. But statistics on race and ethnicity show a disturbing turn. Hispanics are nearly twice as likely to get an abortion compared to white women, and black women almost 4 times as often.
The abortion industry has long targeted minority populations and women of color, and they tend to put their clinics in areas that are more accessible for these women.
Derek Jones calls Planned Parenthood a billion-dollar empire that misleads the public when it comes to their so-called health services.
Planned Parenthood should be funded, supported, and appreciated, not undermined, misrepresented, and demonized.
According to today's report, the health services Planned Parenthood provides are going down. Breast exams and breast care fell by more than half in 5 years.
The National Right to Life's ultimate goal is to influence D.C. lawmakers. Next week, they'll have help from thousands of pro-lifers who will converge on Capitol Hill to march for life and protest Roe v. Wade.
NRLC hopes the pro-life momentum continues through 2016.
We are passing life-affirming laws in the states and in Congress, and right now we're being blocked by a pro-abortion president. And this year especially, it reminds us elections have consequences.
Catherine Szeltner, EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you, Catherine. And this is the National Right to Life Committee's third annual report on abortion rates. The findings are based on the Center for Disease Control data, Planned Parenthood's own annual report, and several other sources. Emily Zender is president of March for Life Chicago, joining us by Skype from the Windy City. Emily, how many marchers are you expecting this year?
You know, we're expecting around 7,000 marchers this year, which is almost double what we had last year.
I hear the digits will be single, though. The temperature very cold on Sunday, right?
It will be cold, but this is what we as pro-lifers do. No amount of cold is going to intimidate us. We are going to come out and celebrate life and mark the legalization of abortion with sadness.
So this is a very diverse group, too, is it not?
Yes, it is. You know, we have all different religious backgrounds, all different ethnic backgrounds, and those of no faith at all. Today I just spoke to a gentleman who is an atheist, and he wanted to make sure he was going to be welcome. And I said, absolutely, you know, every person can be pro-life, and it doesn't have to be because of religion.
And how long has this been going on in Chicago, and how have you seen it grow?
You know, this is our third year of having the March for Life Chicago here. And the first year we had 2,000 people from across Illinois. The second year we had 4,000. And this year we have 7,000 we're expecting from 5 different states and from all across Illinois.
Well, good for you. I believe Archbishop Blase Cupich was there last year. Do you expect him this year again?
We do. Archbishop Blase Cupich will be there. And, you know, last year he gave one of my favorite quotes that I've heard about the March for Life. He said, to march means that you cannot sit still. And so that's what we all come to do, is to march with him because we just cannot sit still.
And how important is it to have faith leaders like the Archbishop very visible at these events and in this movement?
Yeah, we recognize that in order to overturn Roe v. Wade, in order to make it unthinkable to ever have an abortion, we have to get every faith community involved. We have to get every level of government involved because abortion hurts people on such a deep level that we need everybody to work together to heal and to support those in unplanned pregnancies.
Emily, you're very young, and I know that there are so many young people that are really involved in this. That has to be uplifting to you in the work you do.
It is very uplifting. You know, we have so many young people who take on the leadership roles, who are, you know, led by those who have been in this movement for years. And we are just so proud to be able to have such a youthful and inspiring movement here in Illinois.
Well, you inspire us. Emily Zender, March for Life, Chicago. Thanks for joining us. We'll be in prayer with you Sunday.
Thank you.
Coming up, War on Terror. How the U.S. is responding to the latest attack. And refugees share their story, how their plight affects their families. On Thursday, the 14th of January, thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick. Attackers set off suicide bombs, exchanging gunfire outside a Starbucks cafe in Indonesia's capital. Police say the brazen assault Thursday imitated the recent Paris attacks. Backers of the Islamic State group are claiming responsibility. All 5 attackers, along with 2 bystanders, died. 20 people were injured. Office workers watched in horror from high-rise buildings in Jakarta. The attack was not far from the presidential palace and the U.S. Embassy. Secretary of State John Kerry condemns the attack.
To simply go out and destroy, blow up, kill innocent people, and leave destruction in their path. The world will fight against that.
Kerry says the battle is often with individual terrorists or small groups, not with nations. Refugees from the Middle East and Africa continue arriving on the Greek islands in spite of Europe's wintry weather. Many are cold and exhausted after their journey by boat from Turkey. Volunteers are providing them with thermal blankets to ward off the cold. The International Organization for Migration says more than 18,000 migrants and refugees arrived in Europe in the past 2 weeks. Most have come through Greece. The church celebrates the World Day of Migrants and Refugees on Sunday. Mary Shovlain has the story of a migrant family being helped by the church in Rome.
Salome Wangari's house was attacked by 15 terrorists, her son kidnapped and held hostage, her daughter sexually harassed. They escaped their home in Kenya to find safe haven in Rome. Salome's hope, a better life for her 2 children.
As a mother, our lives were in danger. The government couldn't provide us all the protection we needed. So I made a decision It's either life or death.
The Wangaris are getting help from the Jesuits, who may be taking a cue from Pope Francis. The Pope impressed the world by making his first papal trip to the Italian island of Lampedusa, where thousands of migrants are rescued every year.
I would like to work with refugees and for refugees, probably in the international humanitarian field, so that I can use my skills to serve others, to try and alleviate the suffering of others.
1 million people crossed into Europe last year, mostly Syrians, Iraqis, and Afghans. And migration is keeping up its high pace, with more than 23,000 people reaching Greece and Italy just this month alone. European leaders are struggling to come up with a plan to cope with the influx. For this family, it's been a long and arduous journey, but their message to their fellow refugees: don't lose hope.
If you stand up as many times as possible, you will find a brighter future in front of you.
In Rome, Mary Shovlain, EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you, Mary. And the world is becoming an increasingly dangerous place for Christians. A new report from the Christian watchdog group Open Doors U.S.A. shows more than 7,000 Christians were killed for their faith in 2015. That is an alarming increase of nearly 3,000 from the year before. Kristin Wright is Director of Advocacy at Open Doors U.S.A. Which countries are the most dangerous for Christians?
Well, Brian, every year Open Doors releases our World Watch List. So for 2016, Open Doors released a list of 50 countries where persecution is the most severe. And heading up those countries is North Korea. It's #1 on our list, as it has been for years now. Iraq is ranked #2. And I think that many of us have been very familiar with the massive flight of Christians from areas now controlled by ISIS.
And how accurate are the numbers that we're getting from these countries?
Well, at Open Doors, we have staff on the ground, networks on the ground in over 60 countries. So we're able to verify and document a lot from the countries themselves. And then we also have a team of researchers that works on that. But let me tell you this, as far as the numbers that we're able to verify, we're finding that around 7,000 Christians were killed for their faith just in the past year. 2,400 churches were attacked. And many more Christians are likely to have died and have suffered in various ways. These are just the numbers that we can verify. We can't even get inside North Korea to verify numbers there. So the numbers are likely much higher.
What would you say is the main source then of this persecution?
It varies according to different countries and different areas of the world, but I will say that of 35 of the 50 countries that are profiled on the Open Doors World Watch List, Islamic extremism is the main leading cause of persecution in these countries.
But in Mexico, it's different. That's a very Catholic country, and yet Christians are subject to a lot of violence. What is behind that?
Mexico is about 82% Catholic, and in Mexico you see other reasons, corruption and crime, and Christians are caught up in the midst of this, particularly when they're trying to influence their communities for the better and make a difference in their own communities.
From Open Doors USA, Kristin Wright, thank you. We appreciate your expertise.
Thank you so much.
And President Obama continues selling his State of the Union address today in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. This week, Lauren Ashburn sat down with Virginia Republican Representative Dave Brat for his reaction to the president's speech.
The divisiveness, the love,
right.
That whole issue,
that's the issue,
really leads to, you know, his faith, right?
Yeah.
And the faith that the nation has in him, but the faith that he has in his God. I understand earlier you got into a little tussle about religion. Why don't you tell me about that?
Yeah, on CNN. I was on Face the Nation. You can go see it at davebrat.com or whatever. But they brought up the Clintons and morality, and then they brought up Donald Trump and morality. I said, well, if you want to talk values and virtues, let's do that for real. And I said, recently, President Obama has been using the Judeo-Christian tradition on immigration specifically. He cited the Old Testament script, you know, we ought to take care of sojourners and wanderers and kind of the gleaning laws kind of stuff that he's aware of. And so last week on the TV show, I said, well, in my view, I think the Hebrews had 600 additional laws, not just the one that he is recalling. And so if he wants to invoke Hebrew scripture, I'm all for it. Let's invoke the whole Torah, right? So he invokes selectively religious passages that are powerful, right? The Judeo-Christian tradition is very powerful.
On Planned Parenthood, defunding Planned Parenthood, there was a bipartisan budget. Passed, but you were not able to defund Planned Parenthood as part of that.
Right.
What does the future look like on that?
Well, the future is we learned our lesson, right? I mean, we lost all our leverage, Paul Ryan said the budget, he himself said it's a crap sandwich. Boehner called it cleaning the barn. But on Planned Parenthood, we let that kind of reach the end of the year where just 4 people are in a room. Nancy Pelosi, Paul Ryan, a few other people are negotiating. Well, it didn't turn out right. And so what we learned is you have to attach these Republican first principles to must-pass legislation.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Super.
Up next, faithful direction, what Bishop Harry Jackson would tell presidential candidates. And a papal invitation to the young and how it ties into the Year of Mercy. Thank you for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick, and the deadliest Ebola outbreak ever is finally over. The World Health Organization declares the end today after no new cases have emerged in Liberia. Health officials warn it will be several more months before the world is considered totally free of the disease. It claimed more than 11,300 lives over 2 years, most of them in West Africa. Pope Francis urges young people living in situations of war, extreme poverty, daily troubles, and loneliness to not lose hope. He warns them not to be taken in by the message of hatred or terror all around us. It's part of his message for the Jubilee of Mercy for the Young released today. Students between the ages of 13 and 16 are being invited to the Jubilee for young boys and girls. The main event is April 24th, the 4th Sunday of Easter, in St. Peter's Square. Faith leaders continue to speak out about this week's State of the Union address. Bishop Harry Jackson, founder and chair of the High Impact Leadership Coalition, joining us by Skype from Dallas. Bishop Jackson, what's your assessment of the State of the Union speech?
Well, I thought it was very, very well done by the president, but it was very political and not very pragmatic. That's my criticism. And I think what's needed in today's atmosphere is answers from those high offices, not blame shifting. Even the way the president addressed the issue of immigrants and what I'm going to call religious freedom and how we should treat our Muslim brothers and people of different faiths, I thought it was really kind of done in a partisan way. I wish the president had spoken more about urban education, job creation in the minority communities, rehabilitation of like nonviolent offenders rather than just the blanket criminal justice reform, community safety strategies, and developing working models for urban development. We got to bring safety and then jobs and empowerment to neighborhoods. So if he had done that, I would have felt better and felt like he had used that office and this bully pulpit better.
So next month, you have a forum called the Reconciled Church Presidential Forum. What's that about?
Well, it is really about bringing all the candidates, Democrat and Republican, to weigh in on 5 general themes: racism, law enforcement, economic development for inner cities, much of what I just talked about earlier, government programs that help or hurt, and then faith community involvement. And then we're not going to have gotcha questions. We're really going to give them an opportunity to think about and communicate solutions. And Brian, that's what I think needs to happen.
Any quick advice for the candidates?
Yeah, I think they should all be aware that by 2040, there's going to be a browning of America. In other words, more ethnics in the nation than the old moral majority. And therefore, now is the time to start talking about issues that deal with the urban centers, that talk about healing, all these class, race distinctions, and all of them, GOP included, need to begin to speak about these things right now and weave their messaging and the vision they're projecting in, and so that others will feel accommodated, accepted, and needed.
Very interesting. Bishop Harry Jackson, thanks for joining us on EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you.
Astonishing, unbelievable expressions used to describe an archaeological dig in the UK that's being compared with the ancient Roman city of Pompeii. About 3,000 years ago, circular wooden houses stood on stilts in a river at this site. There was a fire and the buildings collapsed into the water and were covered by silt. The people apparently left, leaving tools and even food behind. Many of the artifacts dating back to the end of Britain's Bronze Age are well preserved. Researchers hope to uncover more clues about how people of the Bronze Age lived. For the EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Brian Patrick. Thanks for joining us. Good night. God bless you.